Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this man back. He's a great economist. He's a visiting fellow economics at the Heritage Foundation. It's Peter St Onge. Peter, how are you? Good to see you again.
I am very good. It's great to be back, Joe.
You know, we were going to have you last week, but a little COVID showed up, huh?
Of all things, yeah, apparently. My wife was making fun of me for being a wuss, but yeah, apparently.
Well, I mean, I thought it was gone. Joe Biden, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago at the North American International Auto Show in Detroit, said we're post-COVID, but I
Yep.
guess we're not.
No. Well, we got an election coming in here, Joe. So, it's going to be coming right back. Everybody's going to have to vote by mail for
I hope not.
and their 100 closest friends.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, in Michigan, they got 6 unsolicited ballots at a house that had 2 people. So I see something happening there. Maybe we'll get into that as we get closer to the election. But let me ask you something very general about elections.
Yeah.
When somebody is elected, when somebody wins an election, obviously the economic principles and policies of the person who won won't take place if it's a new person until January. But like November the next day, you see gas prices go up or down. You see the economy go up or down, the stock market go up or down. Why is that?
The market is what's called forward looking, meaning that prices are based on what people think is going to happen tomorrow, not what's happening today. Right. So if they think that taxes are going to go up or that oil is going to go up because the new guy's going to start more wars, that's going to be reflected in the price of those things today. So stocks might go down today. Oil prices might go up today, even though the bad thing is not happening for a couple months or maybe even for another year. I mean, typically, for most economic numbers, presidents don't really have a huge impact until about a year after they take office, just because it takes time for things to come through. But you will see the stock market reaction, oil prices, gold prices. You'll see those things, I mean, within seconds. If you've got, like, during the day of the election, if one guy looks like he's up and then he goes down, you'll see that reflected immediately in the stock market.
It's kind of amazing. We do see that historically. We see that every single time when Biden won, and I do that in air quotes, in 2020, all of a sudden the price of a barrel of oil went through the roof, and the gasoline that was already in the ground at my local gas station was going to cost me about 50, 60, 70 cents more, if not more than that. So it really is, it's all speculation.
Yeah, well, it's speculation. So you've got this long supply chain, right? Like at any given moment, if you take a snapshot of all the oil, you got a bunch of it that's in the ground under the gas station. You got a bunch of it in trucks. You got a bunch of it in, tanker ships, and a bunch of it in refineries and big storage. If you ever drive through New Jersey, for example, right? Like, you just got these massive storage tanks.
Right.
So there's this entire supply chain where basically like the next 6 months or 1 year's worth of oil is all sitting there somewhere along the line. And if they think that gas prices are going to go up in 6 months, they got to think about the new gas coming into that whole pipeline there.
Gotcha.
Right? They're not just thinking about the gas they're selling today. They're thinking, well, yeah, but we got to replace that with something. So, yeah, all the prices come through almost immediately.
Peter St Onge is STONGE, peterstonge.com. Go there. It's Peter St Onge. So let's talk about $95 billion. $60 billion is going to go to Ukraine. I guess some billions will go to Israel. We're going to send some billions over to Taiwan, which is one of the richest per capita countries on the planet. We'll send them some money too. Nothing for the border. But Mitch McConnell came out and with his drawl, there's only 2% of our GDP. So I guess I shouldn't worry because 98% of the GDP was untouched by this. Peter, can we break it down into what it really is? It's almost another $100 billion to go and fund and finance foreign wars. How does that benefit us economically in America?
Yeah, exactly. 2% of GDP, that is to say 2% of everything you're going to earn this year.
Wow.
Okay, that's not nothing there.
No, it's not. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, right. For the average household, you're looking at somewhere around $1,500. Okay, so the typical American does not have $500 set aside for an emergency. Sick pet, sick kid, car that broke down, you can't go to work.
Right.
They don't have $500 for that, but we clearly got $1,500 to ship to every country in the world that's got an issue. Some of them, as you pointed out, which are quite rich. So I used to live in Taiwan. I love the Taiwanese people, but they are absolute deadbeats. They sit there and coast on our military. Every time they got a problem, they say, here, you go fix it. You go spend it. They don't spend enough on their military. They don't even let our food in. Okay,
wow.
Like, at least you could have the decency. If your country exists because we foot the bill, at least you could have the decency to buy our stuff.
I would think so.
Yeah, and this is the entire world. This is Japan. This is Europe. They're all free riding on us. that was one of the greatest things about Trump was that he was pissed off about that. And we should be pissed off about that. We spent $1 trillion defending the entire world. Niger, right, which is a country in Africa that most Americans have never heard of. Niger just kicked out American soldiers. We apparently had over 1,000 soldiers in Niger. What in the heck are they doing over there? Because I can tell you, it's real expensive to be over there goofing around, shooting militants or whatever we're doing. We've got soldiers in over 150 countries. To me, it starts to look like a venture capital business.
Yeah.
Where, we put a little bit of money and a couple of soldiers and a little tripwire over here because they are hoping that a war will start and we can get involved and then we can hand these big contracts to Lockheed Martin, right? And then Lockheed, they're going to pay speaking fees to the Republicans who are going to go and talk about the importance of Niger democracy or whatever the heck, whatever justification they need to pump out more money. Each one of those missiles we sent over there, each destroyer, you see these videos of all these ships going across the ocean, and you know how much that stuff costs, right? So the reason we don't have bridges, the reason our trains derail, right? The reason why we can't afford to take care of homeless veterans is because we spend close to $1 trillion defending the rest of the world, and they don't even say thank you. Right, they just turn around and give us new bills. They criticize us for being stingy. It's like this is an absolute travesty. Republicans are supposed to be the party of small government. I understand when Democrats do it because they always want to spend more money. They want to take away from the people. They want to give it to the government. That's what they do. That's their business. Fine. Republicans claim to be the party of small government, and they turn around and do crap like this. Not a dime for the border. Nothing whatsoever for the actual security emergency we do have in this country, which is millions of people showing up. These people are unvetted. If I committed a crime in Honduras, you can be darn sure I'm going to come to America because nobody knows who I am. So how many criminals are coming in here? How many terrorists are coming in here? How many welfare cases are coming in here and bouncing those
all of them
veterans out? Yeah.
Now, if you were going to Honduras and say, "Give me housing, give me food, give me a phone, and give me a way of life," they would escort you to the border and say, "Leave or go to jail." It's Peter St Onge.
Yep. As an immigrant, and I can tell you right now, I never goofed around with my immigration because they
of course not.
In a camp. They don't just deport you. They throw you in a camp to teach you a lesson. They got Guatemalans in there. Not anymore because they just wave them through. They're all going to the U.S. But in the old days, Mexico was cruel to Guatemalans, Hondurans, Salvadorans who come in there. So, Mexico posing as this champion of the downtrodden, BS. They used to put them in camps with barbed wire and keep them in there a couple months to teach them a lesson before kicking their butt back home. We fly them home, but apparently that's cruel.
Well, now we're flying them from home to here. They're literally doing that in the dark of night. It's Peter St Onge. He's a great economist, the Heritage Foundation fellow. Let me expand a little bit upon what you said. We do have people in 150 different countries around the world. One would think we'd start using that leverage to our advantage, but we're not. We're just giving them free stuff.
Yep.
But it also jumps out at me that we haven't won a war, and I don't think we want to win a war since World War II. It's like we go to war because of this so-called military industrial complex, which obviously is real. And they actually said the quiet part out loud 2 days ago, Peter, in the Senate. You had idiots in the House and Senate waving the Ukrainian flag like dumbasses. Yep. And then a couple of the senators actually said, this is good news because it'll build American jobs. So we're going to put another 100,000 Ukrainian men in the meat grinder so we can have jobs here? Is that what they want me to think is morally right?
That's our party line. That one came down from the mothership, I guess, because they're all repeating it. So what they say is, no. See, this money's not going to Ukraine. This money's going to Americans to build missiles. They're going to give the missiles to Ukraine. The thing is, so what you're saying here is that you're going to put a bunch of Americans on building crap that you're then going to effectively throw away.
Yes.
All those guys who built the bombs, they could have built a bridge, right?
No, that would be silly. That'd be crazy to build a bridge.
Right? They I don't know, they could be over in Baltimore rebuilding the bridge, which apparently hasn't budged in 3 months because all the guys who know how to fix bridges are screwing around with more, shells for Ukraine or whatever. Bottom line is, if you're paying Americans to produce stuff and then you're, throwing it in the ocean or giving it away to Ukraine, you have wasted those men's lives. All right. So I'm all for buying American. I'm all for spending money to build things that benefit America. Sending a bunch of bombs to Ukraine?
Yeah.
What exactly is that doing for, a family of four struggling to raise kids in Oklahoma? That's doing absolutely nothing for them. if you're going to pay Americans to build stuff, build useful stuff that we can actually use here. Build cars, build bridges, build something like that.
And when we keep on building the national debt, let me ask you this. If you got a call today from the administration, they said, man, we really do have to fix the debt. How do you start dwindling down $34 trillion? I can't even imagine writing that number down.
Well, you start with the military. I want to have the best darn Border Patrol and Coast Guard on Earth.
Yes.
I want America to be watertight, and the rest of the country can deal with their issue, or the rest of the world can deal with their issues. So that's number one. You could save probably about $800 billion if you cut that out. It's a huge chunk of change. Number two is you get rid of all the government programs that it should never be in the first place. The 10th Amendment of the Constitution says that any power not listed in the Constitution is forbidden to the federal government.
Right.
The entire federal government is unconstitutional. So you close down all that crap, you're left with essentially Treasury, Department of Defense, a very small one, mostly a Coast Guard. That's pretty much it. All the rest of it goes. Now, some of the programs you got to keep, things like Social Security, because they forced you to pay into it.
Right.
That's your money right there. Right. So you got to keep some things like that. But almost every dollar government spends, all these welfare programs, they spend something like $3.8 trillion a year on various forms of welfare. That's up $800 billion since COVID, right? COVID was a party in Washington. Everybody got money. It was like Oprah, you get $1 million, you get $1 million. Cut all that crap out.
Yeah.
If we just ended that stuff, we would have a balanced budget as it is. And then, you start whittling down the debt little bit. But at least you would head off the crisis at that point.
Oh, of course. Peter, STONGE.com. Go there. It's Peter St Onge. Let me ask you about Biden keeps on going to these campaign stops. He said yesterday that he cut the national debt. I don't know if he put a number on it or not, but of course he didn't. He's exploded it by about $3 trillion. And then he also says that he's cutting the national deficit by $1.7 trillion. Now, I know that he's trying to pretend like he went back to pre-COVID spending, but he didn't. Is it a little bit less than it was? Yes, because they cut back a little bit of the spending. But economically speaking, he has not done a good job, but he keeps on taking credit for the fact that he did.
Yeah, well, I asked myself, is this before or after his uncle was eaten by the cannibals? Joe Biden.
Uncle Bozy. Leave Uncle Bozy out of this, Peter.
There's a lot of fun stuff going on inside of Joe Biden's head. Right. Fundamentally, the game they play always is that they take the high water mark of all time. All right. And they say, yeah, sure, I cut it compared to the high water mark of all time.
Right.
Now, the high water mark of all time, of course, was 2020 because the deep state went to work freaking everybody out, telling you that everybody was going to die. Right. They spent so much money during COVID that any number is going to look good compared to that. But of course, what they told us at the time, they said this is a once in millennia crisis here, people. This is the worst since the Black Plague.
Right.
Right. Just one time we're going to do this. Promise, never again. Right. Every single time when they do that kind of crap, they lie. So what he's doing is his advice. I mean, clearly Joe Biden doesn't have thoughts, right? He has people who write things down for him. Right. So his speechwriters, that's what they're aiming at here, right? They're trying to take that high water mark, the absolute peak of COVID, when Fauci was working his magic. They're comparing it to that. Well, given that COVID is not on anymore, it would be pretty surprising if we were still spending that amount, right? So the appropriate comparison would be 2019.
Yes.
Before COVID took off, and compared to that, it is insane how much more we're spending.
Well, it is. It's the same thing that they do with gas prices. Gas prices are down. What does Karine Jean-Pierre say? $1 from their peak. Well, their peak was under this president, and they're still 53% higher than when he took office. So you're right. He's actually saying, look how well I've done against myself, which doesn't make any sense. It's Peter St Onge. Let me ask you about California raising the minimum wage to $20 an hour. Crazy but true. Companies said, we're not going to let it take away from our bottom line, so we'll just get rid of some expenses, right?
Well, that's what happens. So the thing is, a minimum wage sounds beautiful, right? You want to take care of the working poor. Everybody likes working poor. That's true. Everybody does like working poor. The issue is this. When you put a minimum wage on there, a company will not lose money hiring somebody.
Right.
Okay? You wouldn't either. All right. You wouldn't wake up in the morning and go make the donuts and lose money every day. You would close shop, right? Companies cannot make money if you're forcing them to pay people more than those people are worth. So that means that what you're effectively doing with the minimum wage is that you are banning low-skill jobs. You are effectively telling people, if you're not worth 20 an hour, Okay, let's say that you don't read that well because your public school failed you.
Right.
Maybe you have trouble getting up on time, whatever. There are a lot of people like that who earn the minimum wage. What you're effectively telling those people is you cannot have a job. You are banning all jobs below 20 bucks an hour. So the way that you see that on the ground is that companies will say, well, we're not hiring. Why are they not hiring? Because they can't make money at 20 bucks an hour. The customer will not accept it. Right? At some point, you or I go to McDonald's and you're paying 15 bucks for a burger, fries, and a Coke. People stop going. Right? And so McDonald's cannot pay that much. In some places, they can go ahead and raise the prices, but in other places, they can't. People will simply stop coming. So the end result is you kill the job, you wipe out, the individual worker. The worker then has to turn to informal work. Maybe they have to hang out at Home Depot and hope somebody comes by for day labor. The worker is the one who gets absolutely ravaged by minimum wages.
Right.
And, kind of the danger of a minimum wage is that they do sound so good. They sound so noble, so kind. We're just going to help the working poor. Doesn't work that way. If you want to help the working poor, you want to have no minimum wage, because that then becomes the ladder, right? It's the first step in the ladder. You get on that, you learn how to wake up in the morning, you learn how to take instruction, you learn how to smile to a customer, step by step by step, you move up. And, if you've ever run a business, as soon as you see an employee who's good at what they do, you want to hold on to that person. You are going to give them a raise, right? This is what businesses do. They try to hold on. It is very hard to find a good worker. So you don't need the government in there, right? Companies are going to raise wages in proportion to how productive the workers are. But when you put a minimum wage in there, especially something like 20 bucks an hour, you are knocking out the first 3-4 rungs of the ladder. And then you end up with people who are completely hopeless. They say, there's no jobs. I can't find a job. Everybody else, they got a nice car. I got nothing. Yes, because they banned work for you.
Then I'm with you. Minimum wage should be zero. Then the market should dictate how much. If you offer me $2 an hour, I'll say no until you give me a number that I'll accept. But what also people don't realize is that was the advent of ATMs and kiosks at where I'm checking myself out at Walmart, or if I go to McDonald's and I'm pressing a button to say what I want. I'm not talking to a person anymore. I'm literally working for McDonald's to go buy something, and people don't seem to understand that, because for a moment they say, "Oh my God, I'm going to get $20 an hour," right, until you get your pink slip.
Yeah, well, right. So companies have to automate because, machines don't have a minimum wage. So if you're calling up and you're on this phone tree, this endless phone tree, press 1 for English, right? That's the minimum wage talking right there. Right?
Exactly right.
They can't make money, right, hiring people for that kind of thing, because like a call center is a pretty low-end job, right? So if they have to pay a certain amount of money, then they automate it. They pay some company to come in and build some software, and then you, the customer, are sitting there wondering, where are all the people? Well, their jobs have been banned.
Exactly right. It's Peter St Onge. Peter, I could talk to you for 2 hours. We're frankly out of time. Come back again soon, would you?
Always, Joe. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. We're back after this. Stay right here.